Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Minecraft Memories, the show that's a little bit about Minecraft, a little bit about memories. Since the last episode, I actually got two new subscribers. I've got Roofrin2567 and Draco Lunaris. So the both of you, thanks. And to show my appreciation, I think I should actually start turning these lonely walls into little subscriber monuments. I think what I'm going to do is carve out 3x3 little niches and dedicate each niche to a different subscriber. I don't anticipate on getting too many subscribers, so I think this is a nice way to kind of beautify the area and give it a little bit of individuality. In the last episode, I talked a little bit about church, I talked a little bit about a lot of everything, sports in general. I think I'm going to turn it back to the academic area, uh, by which I mean elementary school academics. I'm still trying to fit the earlier parts of my life into this. Eventually, I'll move on to middle school, high school, college, and post-college life. But until then, let's start with let's just kind of keep it. You know what? Actually, I've decided by decree you guys get a 5x5 block, and that way it's a little bit more engaging. I was thinking the other day about school, and I talked a little bit about Christmas, but I think one of my favorite holidays around the school time, the one that I associated a lot with school, was Halloween. Now everybody loves Halloween. It's a it's a holiday season where you get to go dress up like a bunch of crazy what have yous and get free candy, or if you're an adult, get a little drunk. That's always fun. Only if you're of legal drinking age, of course. I was not of legal drinking age when I was in elementary school. Far from it. I was actually too young to drink, and that was fine because my brain was still developing and I needed to keep it healthy so that I could be the entertaining marvel in front of you right now. One of the things that I remember early elementary school was the fall festival, and I'm assuming that many people had something similar. A fall festival is a way you can kind of bring kids in and make a little bit of money for the school while also providing a safe kind of habitat for kids. What you would do is you would go in, it was after school hours, usually in the afternoon, late afternoon to early evening, before dinner, after school let out, or sometimes even after dinner if it was late enough. I do remember it being dark, and there were a lot of games, a lot of prizes that could be won, and just general fun. The Fall Festival had a plethora of activities, and I think the top one up here I'm going to dedicate to AMP. I'm going to get a little sidetracked this episode, going back and forth between discussing subscribers, and we're going to give him a little bit of a red flare. He's a funny guy. I know him on Skype, and he actually was my first subscriber. Gave me a very nice compliment, said that my voice is really good and that I actually sound like I could do very good creepypasta. Thank you, Amp, so much for that. I actually think I'll take that to heart, and maybe once we get closer to the Halloween season, relevant sidetrack there, I may do creepypastas. It's something that I enjoy. It's something I've actually written before. So why not share the wealth? No. We'll leave it open. It's what Amp would want. I should also get signs so I can discuss, remember who's what. So the Fall Festival. The Fall Festival was just a bunch of games. It was and prizes, but really the haunted house is what stands out to me. Before I get to the haunted house, I will say I did cakewalks, and we won cakes a few times. The cakes weren't very good. Volunteers would bake them, and sometimes you could tell the good cakes were usually swiped pretty quickly in the night. We did a stuffed animal walk, which that was pretty fun. It was like a cakewalk, but you got to win a stuffed animal. It was something for the kids. Then we also did. They had like this little fishing game where you would throw your pool in and it would get like little fake fish. It's a good AMP monument. Thank you, AMP, for the subscription. Moving on to Roofrin. The fish game, I don't remember playing too much. We were kind of poor when I was a kid, so I didn't get the opportunity to play too many games. And the amount of tickets some of them cost, because you would go in, you would buy tickets, and you would spend those tickets on whichever games you wanted to try playing. Now, since I wasn't able to play many of these games due to financial concerns, I was left kind of on the sidelines. And that's fine, because it wasn't really... the games weren't that great. We're going to give him an emerald block here. But the haunted house was something that we went to. I think my first time going to the haunted house, I was in 1st or 2nd grade, and I can't remember exactly. Excuse me, sorry. And all I remember was freaking out. This was by far the scariest thing a human could ever endure. I remember specifically seeing a skeleton in the floor. Sorry about that, had to clear my throat. I remember seeing a skeleton in the floor. The haunted house was up on stage where we usually, because you had a gymnasium, and then you had a stage. Pretty typical. And typically the stage was covered up by a curtain, and we would go up on the stage. There's like little walkways on either side, and we'd have music up there. So this is the area where the music room was. Well, this night, there wasn't a music room. This was the room of pure torture. This was the room of nightmares. There was a skeleton in the floor, and it was wiggling. It was wiggling, guys. There was a werewolf that came out from behind a table. Guys, a werewolf came out from behind a table. I lost it. I remember clinging to Mom's leg, crying, freaking out. This was it. This was how I died. I'd lived a good life up to that point. I was already in 1st grade, and I knew that was it. There was no more, no more life to be had. We actually, through some miracle, I did manage to survive. I don't know how, but it happened. No, I know how. It was a simple haunted house. But if you had told me that while I was in there, I was just getting consolable because I was so freaked out. Now, as an adult, you know that it's not scary. You know it's a bunch of parents dressed up, and they're just trying to spook the kids. In fact, I went back a few years later, I think I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and this frightening experience had not aged well. I went in there, and I was like, this is not what I remember. Are we sure that this is the same experience? Because in my mind, it was still horrific. It was an insurvivable situation full of monsters and haunts around every corner, and there was just no way that this was the same experience. But it was, and sometimes in life things age like that. That is not too well. Let's give it a little bit of a pop out here. We'll get some snow. I haven't used a snow block. I think that it has building merits. Yeah. So we're gonna make him have a nice little lime green, and then he is a blue and green character. So thank you so much. I've actually drawn him a picture before. He's a cool guy. Let me out. Speaking of death and not surviving, when I think I was in kindergarten. I was young. It was elementary school for sure. Part of the younger parts of elementary school. I remember thinking, well, I'm pretty old. I'm going to die soon. We were on the playground down the lake, closer to the lake. Again, Grandpa owned a resort. That's not me bragging. It's kind of a little bit of embarrassment some ways, but he on a resort had a little playground down there, and we would play down there sometimes. So I was like, well, I'm already in first, second grade. The best years of my life are behind me. I remember going up to Mom and saying, Mom, I'm gonna die soon. I'm sure as a parent that probably left her completely uncomfortable, hearing her kid, still very young, come up to her and say, I'm gonna die. I really didn't intend for it to sound that scary. Hey, we'll do double lights here. And she said, what do you mean, Kyle? And I explained to her, Mom, I'm old. I'm getting up there in age. I'm no longer the spry youth that I once was. I think she explained to me how silly it was. I think death as a concept has always lingered really close with me, especially as a kid. Even as a kid, I mean. Not especially as, since it's kind of stuck around. You know, death is ever present around every corner, and it's inescapable. But I do remember one time we were swimming at the lake over by my Aunt Carol and Uncle Phil's house. They were about a subdivision away. It was a quick drive. And I think he was a drunk, because Mom told me that he was a drunk and that she regretted letting him talk to me. But we were swimming and there was like an older guy there, and I had a cough. I still have a cough, but I had a cough then. And he said, well, that's a cough. You're probably going to die soon. Well, what kind of psycho tells a kid that? His logic behind that was that he knew of a football player who also had a cough, and if he didn't go to the hospital, he would have died. So I thought, well, I probably had a good run. I wasn't as accepting of it as I first thought. I thought, well, if this is how I go, this is how I go. But later that night, I went to Mom and Dad's room in tears, explaining, I'm going to die. I just wanted to let you know. I love you. You're the best parents. I'm sorry that anything I've ever done. Kyle, what are you talking about? This is it. I'm okay with it, as long as you guys are okay with it. As long as you guys are okay with me dying, I'm okay with dying. Kyle, go back to your room. You're not going to die. So that guy probably doesn't need to be talking to children. Death. Man, we would, actually, I think the first death that happened was kind of kept clandestine from us. First of all, Draco Lunaris, thank you so much for the subscription. And guys, if I get boring, or if you figure you want to clean up the subscription box and you want to delete me, I completely understand. This is just a nice way to kind of make the side of these cliffs more interesting. And already you can kind of see the colors here. Crazy color classes, and oh, it's going to be a nightmare mess of just absolute insanity, but I'm going to love it. You know what we could do is do something kind of neat. I think, but the first death I think probably happened when I was in 3rd grade. There was this girl that was in a wheelchair, and I think she was in our class, and then one day she just wasn't, and I think I knew she had cancer, and I think it was like a leukemia, and I think it was one of those leukemias that you don't get over. Maybe nowadays they would have had a cure for it, but I don't think she lived. I don't remember her name, which is unfortunate, but you know, that's how it goes. Another one, I've had someone die in every single school, I guess. I mean, I've had more than one, but you know, there's always been one major one that's affected me. Middle school, it was this kid named Corey R. I'm not gonna give his last name, and he died, I think, in a car crash with his uncle, and Dad collided. And he was a really sad case because he actually was in band with us. He was in our grade, and in one of his spare class times, he helped the mentally handicapped kids. Like, he was a great guy. A little boorish sometimes. He was a bigger guy. This is seventh grade, mind you. You know, big kids in seventh grade are really little people still, but for our time, he was a big guy. But he helped out people, and that was a great. And just someone like that, man. In high school, it was a kid, because he was still a kid. It's kind of crazy to think about high school. The memory's so vivid, but you know what? Maybe we'll make some choral down there eventually. Not this episode, but sometime. But yeah, his name was Anthony, and he actually palled around with my best friend's sister. She was in band. She was a senior when we were freshmen, and he was a senior when he died. But he got in a car crash also. He was going onto an on-ramp, and this on-ramp was notoriously steep. Man, what is this, a little cave? I don't want to leave the islands yet. I'll come to that later. Beautiful cave. We can build something cool here. We'll build something cool over there, is what I meant to say. But he was getting on an on-ramp. I think he was actually selling fruit for the band. We used to sell fruit annually, and he was selling some, and somebody had spilled something on the on-ramp, and he hydroplaned. Didn't make it. He died. That was brutally sad because, in high school you're old enough to mourn properly. Death never feels real, but it feels less real when you're a kid because, death, that's just somebody disappearing. But when you're older and old enough to understand death, that's someone disappearing. But a little bit more serious of a disappearance. And then I guess the one I should speak about, college. I'll take a little bit of a break here from the ordered discussion. I was going to talk a little bit about Cub Scouts. I'll have time to talk about that next episode. Make it a little bit more joyous. I'm already on the Halloween and death. This can be the Halloween and death episode. This one is a little bit of a weird one. I'm not going to say bitter. It's bitter. It's a bitter one. He was a bully that I had throughout, especially middle school. Now, I don't know about you guys. Some people say high school's the worst. Some people say middle school's the worst. For me, it was middle school. If you think it was high school, you're wrong. Wrong, as God Emperor Trump would say. Just memeing, guys. Just memeing. But he got in a car accident and didn't make it. And it was really weird because I didn't know what to think about it. I mean, this is a guy that had tormented me, almost brought me to the brink of, I hate to say it, but I'm not going to say it. It was pretty bad. I could talk about psychological torments in another episode. This one is just kind of, we're going to go over the bit more objective points, not the sadder bits of psyche. But he would torment me pretty bad. And even in high school, when I started getting a lot of friends, because I was a band nerd, and I just at that point stopped caring, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to have fun, and if people want to get on this fun train, they're more than welcome. And happy enough, many people did want to get on the fun train, and we had a blast. But whenever he saw me in the hallway, and it's weird because he wasn't actually a full-on bully. He was one of those kinds of guys that would treat you one way when you're in private, but when you're in public, would treat you another way. And now I know that's nothing to be admired. That's if you do that, don't do that. Treat people consistently, folks. Try and treat them nice if you can, but if you can't, at least treat them consistently. And that way they don't let their guards down around you. Because throughout 8th grade, we had this gifted and talented class, which, by the way, was a joke. That gifted and talented class was essentially, let's put all of the smart kids in a class together and have them make graphs the entire time. We did graphs, and then the big project at the end of the year was us presenting graphs. This, it was middle management written all over it. This was somebody in the upper echelons of the state saying, oh, this would be a great idea to educate the kids. Are you sure? Absolutely. This is some bureaucrat's idea of education, and I can tell you, I didn't learn a thing in that entire class. There would have been amazing project potentials that you could have had. You could have had a free-form study where each kid takes some subject that he wants and does a huge report on it. You could have had class collaboration where you assign parts to kids and they try and solve one big project, like maybe design a rocket, or how would we colonize Mars, something like that. Nope. Present graphs. What's your favorite magazine? What's your favorite kind of book? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite activity to do? And we had to present them in all sorts of graphs. It was a tedious class. Horrible. I have no idea what kind of person would dream this up. This was punishment. But anyway, he was in that class. And in that class, he was actually kind of cool with me. Like, we would just talk with each other. And what is an endermite? Some of these I don't know. What is an endercard? We're going to put a donkey in a cage. This can be the naughty donkey. Yeah, but I talked to him, and he talked to me like a normal human being, and then, you turn around, and then... But the reason I felt kind of weird about his death... I don't know, I've known this I've known this guy for large parts of my life. He was in Cub Scouts with me. His dad, I think, was a professional fisherman, and in elementary school he actually gave us, I got a lot of junk in here. Oh, I can't get rid of that, whatever. Oh, give that back to me. In elementary school he actually gave us fishing poles. Little kid fishing poles, but, it's still pretty cool. He was an only child, so I really feel for his parents. But he was drunk, so, I hate to say it, but that's what happens when you drink and drive. And that sounds callous, but seriously, it's a stupid thing to do, and I really despise it. I've lost too many people and seen too much heartache as a result. Don't ever let people do that, guys. But it was weird because I was lost in this sort of... I'm just going to come out and say it because I keep mumbling around the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is I never got a chance to tell him that I forgave him for all the harm that he caused me. Like, I never went up to him and said, listen, man, I never got to speak with him on adult terms, essentially, where we both have our morality kind of formed, and I say, listen, man, this is how it goes. Never got the chance for him to say, oh, man, I'm so sorry, or, for him to say, we didn't get a chance to work it out, is what I'm saying. And I really wish I had gotten that chance. It sounds a little bit weird saying that. It's like, oh, this guy was a jerk, he had it coming. Well, no, I think as a kid, you just kind of try and do whatever you can to survive, and if that includes being mean, then sometimes you'll be mean. I mean, I hate that, but that's how the world is. So I never got a chance to say, hey, this part of our life sucked. We cool now? Yeah, we cool. And even if I'd never seen him again, that would have been good to know. This could be the Chamber of the Sunflower. But I never got that chance, and I actually didn't even go to his funeral. I've actually never even visited his grave. I really meant to do that before I came down to Florida. But once I go back to Kentucky, I think that'll be one of the first trips I take. Oop. Just because, I don't know, I think it'd give me some closure. I sometimes have dreams with him in it. And, man, it was a really wild one a couple of weeks back. I had a dream that we were driving in a car, and I remember thinking, and I told him, I said, I remember you getting in a car accident and dying. And he's like, what? I remember you getting in a car accident and dying. It was kind of like one of those Twilight Zone things, like which one of us is the real person. I've mumbled on too long, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here, and as always, thanks for watching.